What if the most terrifying monster you'll ever meet isn't lurking in a dark forest or a haunted asylum? What if they're just on the other side of your bedroom wall, sharing your morning paper and borrowing a cup of sugar? We trust our neighbors. We exchange pleasantries. We build communities. But sometimes, that trust is horribly misplaced. The person you wave to every morning could be harboring a secret so dark, it turns your idyllic neighborhood into a living nightmare. Tonight, we're peeling back the pristine curtains of suburbia to reveal 3 true, bone-chilling tales of creepy neighbors and the terrifying realization that you never truly know who you're living next to. These aren't just stories. They are cautionary tales that will make you think twice before you introduce yourself to the new family on the block. Stay with us as we descend into the unsettling reality of neighborly horror. Our first story comes from a woman named Clara, who moved into a quaint little apartment complex in the heart of a bustling city. It was her first time living alone, and the initial excitement of independence soon gave way to a gnawing sense of being watched. It started subtly, a feeling, the prickling on the back of her neck when she'd walk from her car to her front door. She dismissed it as new home jitters, but then the notes started appearing. Small, innocuous at first. "I like your new haircut," one read. Another, "You were singing in the shower this morning. You have a lovely voice." Clara was unnerved. How could anyone know these things? There were no names, no signatures. Just the neat, almost too perfect handwriting. Her apartment was on the 3rd floor, with no direct line of sight from the street. The only other person with a clear view into her living room was her neighbor across the hall, a quiet, middle-aged man named Mr. Abernathy. She'd only spoken to him a handful of times. He seemed harmless, if a bit reclusive. But then, the notes became more specific, more intrusive. "You look beautiful in that blue dress last night. It's a shame you drew the curtains." Clara's blood ran cold. The blue dress. She had been trying it on in the privacy of her bedroom. There was no way he could have seen that. Unless he wasn't just watching from across the hall. The fear began to consume her. She started to notice things she had previously overlooked. The faint scratching sounds at her door in the dead of night. The way Mr. Abernathy would always seem to be leaving his apartment at the exact same time as her, a faint, knowing smile on his face. She felt like a prisoner in her own home. The police were sympathetic, but without concrete evidence, there was little they could do. A man being friendly, they suggested. Perhaps a bit too friendly. The final straw came one evening when Clara was getting ready for bed. She was in her bathroom, and as she glanced at the small vent on the wall, she saw something. A flicker of movement. Her heart pounded in her chest as she slowly approached it. And then she saw it, a tiny, almost imperceptible lens, staring back at her. Her quiet, reclusive neighbor hadn't just been watching from a distance. He had found a way into the most private corners of her life. The realization that this nightmare neighbor had been secretly observing her for months sent a wave of terror through her that she would never forget. She moved out the very next day, not even bothering to pack all of her belongings. To this day, she can't shake the feeling of being watched, a constant, chilling reminder of the man who lived just across the hall. Our second story takes us to a quiet, tree-lined street where a young couple, Mark and Sarah, had just bought their first home. They were excited to start their new life together, to plant a garden, to raise a family. Their next-door neighbor was an elderly man named Mr. Peterson. He was a widower and mostly kept to himself. The couple felt sorry for him, often offering to help with his yard work or bring him a hot meal. He would always politely decline, a strange, almost hungry look in his eyes. Mr. Peterson was a collector. His house was filled to the brim with antiques, knickknacks, and what he called curiosities. Mark and Sarah would sometimes see him through his windows, meticulously arranging his collections. It was odd, but they chalked it up to the eccentricities of an old man. But then, strange things started happening. Small items from their yard would go missing. A garden gnome, a wind chime, a small decorative stone. They were trivial things, easily replaceable, but the disappearances were unsettling. One afternoon, their beloved golden retriever, Buddy, went missing. They searched the neighborhood for hours, calling his name until their voices were hoarse. They put up flyers. They spoke to everyone on the street. No one had seen him. A week went by, and a gnawing dread began to settle in their hearts. They had a feeling, a terrible, sinking feeling, that they knew where Buddy was. Mark decided he had to know. One night, armed with a flashlight, he crept into Mr. Peterson's overgrown backyard. The old man was a creature of habit, and Mark knew he went to bed early. He made his way to a small, dilapidated shed at the back of the property. The door was padlocked, but a small, grimy window offered a glimpse inside. Mark shone his flashlight through the dusty glass, and his heart stopped. Inside, surrounded by countless other missing items from the neighborhood, was Buddy. But he wasn't alive. He had been preserved, stuffed and mounted, his glass eyes staring lifelessly into the darkness. And he wasn't alone. The shed was a macabre museum of stolen pets, each one meticulously preserved, a testament to Mr. Peterson's twisted collection. The man who they had pitied, who they had tried to befriend, was a monster hiding in plain sight. The experience with their creepy neighbor left a scar on Mark and Sarah's souls, a chilling reminder that some collections are born from a darkness that defies understanding. Our final story comes from a man named David, who prided himself on having the most beautiful garden on his street. His roses were his pride and joy, winning local competitions year after year. His neighbor to the left, Mrs. Gable, was also an avid gardener, and a friendly rivalry had developed between them. They would often chat over the fence, sharing tips and admiring each other's blooms. But one summer, something changed. David's prize-winning roses began to wither and die. At first, he thought it was a new pest or a disease. He tried every remedy he could find, but nothing worked. The once vibrant petals turned brown and crumbled to dust. Meanwhile, Mrs. Gable's garden had never looked more spectacular. Her roses were a riot of color, bigger and more beautiful than ever before. David started to become suspicious. He noticed Mrs. Gable spending an unusual amount of time in her garden late at night. He would see her a lone figure moving in the darkness, tending to her plants. He installed a security camera, hoping to catch a raccoon or some other animal that might be damaging his garden. What he found was far more disturbing. The footage showed Mrs. Gable, in the dead of night, sneaking into his yard with a small container. She would move from rosebush to rosebush, carefully pouring a clear liquid at the base of each one. David was horrified. His friendly neighbor, his gardening rival, was poisoning his beloved roses. The next day, he confronted her. She didn't deny it. In fact, she seemed proud. "There can only be one winner," she said, a chillingly sweet smile on her face. The incident with Mrs. Gable was a terrifying wake-up call for David. It wasn't just about the roses anymore. It was about the realization that the friendly competition had morphed into a dangerous obsession for his nightmare neighbor. He had been living next to someone whose jealousy was so consuming, she was willing to resort to such a malicious and calculated act. The perfect suburban facade had been shattered, revealing the unsettling darkness that can fester in the most unexpected of places. The stories you've heard tonight are a chilling reminder that the greatest horrors are often the ones that are closest to home. We build fences, we lock our doors, but sometimes the real danger is already inside our small, trusted communities. These encounters with creepy neighbors serve as a stark warning. Be aware of your surroundings, trust your instincts, and never assume you truly know the people you live beside. What did you think of these true neighbor horror stories? Have you ever had a chilling encounter with a neighbor? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found these stories as unsettling as we did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more tales of real-life horror. Stay safe out there, and remember, you never know who's watching.